Welcome to the first live webcast of the Anagama Kiln here on the campus of the University of Montevallo. I'm Timeca McCoy.
And I'm Meaghan Collins.
And we're here live at the site of the Anagama Kiln.
Today is the first series of the loading, lighting, firing, and unloading of the kiln. We'll also have interviews with the artists who will have their pottery placed in the kiln, as long as pottery as an art form. If you have any questions during the webcast, be sure to contact us at kilncast@montevallo.edu.
I'm here with Dr. Meyer, Mastermind of the Anagama Kiln. So, Dr. Meyer, what do you expect to happen with the kiln?
Well, with the title Mastermind, I hope we do a lot with it. That's a lot to live up to. We have artists and students here from all over the place, and one of the great things about these events is that it assembles people that have really disparate creative goals. So they assemble here, they work together, they talk and exchange ideas, and so I hope we do justice to all their great pieces that we're loading in the kiln. And I hope they get what they wanted out of it. And I hope we learn something, because it's impossible to fire these things much more than twice or three times a year. So they're really limited windows that we have to really understand, something about the kiln. So we hope we learn something too.
Okay, that sounds great. Now we'll see a tour of the Anagama Kiln with Dr. Meyer here.
Okay, what I thought we'd do is talk about the different parts of the kiln, and where I'm standing now is the main firebox. This is the door, so it's counterweighted with a sophisticated operation that you see here. Luckily that cinder block weighs about as much as the door. Inside there's an area without work in it that's about 3 feet long and about 2.5 feet wide. To make sure that the work doesn't get hit directly with the oncoming logs. An enormous mound of coals is here, so the coals might be as high as 3 feet, and this kind of pile of spent fuel, and we could be throwing as many as something like 20 of these at a time, and then turn around in 2 minutes and do it again. Okay, I'm standing here at the side door of the kiln. Some of the kilns that have been built don't have them, and so you can imagine belly flopping in there to load the pieces in, and only having one place to do that, where we were before at the entrance to the firebox. Here we can have 2 loading sites, which is great because you have a lot of people. What could be a chaotic time as people are arriving with work, and people are inside, students are in there helping me. And so if we have ultimately 2 spots where those things can be happening, it increases our speed. There are 8 of the side stoke ports that go up both sides of the kiln. And so our loading involves loading pieces in and shelving in between relative to the size of the pieces. In the areas in between the side stoke ports. Right where we are now technically ends the chamber of the kiln, so the pieces tend to not be loaded from here on out, but back here the ash is so fine because you have to figure it's made it 23 feet from the firebox to the very back, so it has to be light in order to be able to make the trip all the way back here and be carried on that force of the flame. So the ash that settles on the pieces back here is not nearly as clunky as it is in the front. And so we put, pieces with detailed surfaces, pieces where we want the flame marks to be predominant over ash drip and things like that, and we put them back here. This is an exit flue, and people were throwing away an exit sign, and so we sort of figured any little help we can get to the flame, we're going to go ahead and do it. So that's a tongue-in-cheek way to show the flame which way is out.
Now we would like to talk to some of the artists who are placing their pieces in the kiln. So what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Steve Laux, and I teach at Jacksonville State University on the east side of Alabama.
Okay, and what brought you here today?
Well, I think this is a wonderful energy that Scott has put together, this kiln, and I love the camaraderie of wood firing. I don't typically do a wood firing with my work, but I love the camaraderie and the energy and the experience. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun, get some interesting results, and you never know what you're going to get. I love making art.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We also have some more artists here who would like to talk to us. Hi.
Hey.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good. And what is your name?
I'm Susan Dennis.
Okay, and where are you from?
I'm from Birmingham.
Okay, and what brought you out here today?
Well, I was a student last year, and I took the May term class and did the Anagama firing, had the time of my life. And so I decided to come back out here. I'm a full-time artist, so I have some pieces going in this year, so it's exciting.
Okay, well, that sounds great. And what is your name and where you're from?
I'm Tina Harris, and I'm from Birmingham as well.
Okay, and what brought you out here today?
Well, I've been taking classes from Scott and Ted for years now, and I just can't seem to stop making ceramics, so it's a lot of fun.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now we'll head up with Meaghan, who has more interviews.
I'm here with Teresa Olson at the kiln. Teresa, could you tell us what's going on right here right now?
Well, we're choosing pieces to load in certain places in the kiln. We're loading both the middle section by the side door, and we're loading the front of the kiln. We have pieces by several artists here. This is by Dr. Christopher Greenman, a nice globular vase. And this is a tile by Davis. He's a student here at Montevallo. This is one of my pieces. I'm doing these funky things that don't mean anything. They've got lots of openings. And this is by a printmaker that we have here, Jane, who's visiting from Birmingham. By the way, happy birthday, Jane, if you're watching. Here's another Jane piece. She's a printmaker, and she's taken some of her printing woodcuts that don't make prints anymore and impressed them into the clay. And she took the story that was on the woodcut and made a story three-dimensionally out of it. So this is a bird eating a fish, and this is one of her cats. She has also a piece that's already loaded that's a cat eating a canary. It's kind of cool. This is one of Dr. Greenman's teapots, and so we do have functional things as well as things that aren't functional. A little coffee mug. Nice mug. They were beautiful when they come out. And having seen the wood fire before, I kind of have an idea what they're going to look like, but it's an anticipation that lasts throughout the May, waiting to see what they look like. And then the day of the unloading is really an awesome day to watch because you get to see everybody happy. It's just a very spirited, smiling kind of place to be, and all the pieces that come out are, ooh, ah, I want that. So you guys tune in for later because it'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. We're going to go ahead and take a break. Be sure to stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more from the kiln. Hi, we're back here at the kiln, and let's take a look and see what's going on inside.
Right here.
One of those things that you can punch through metal with. That's what you do. I'll get the hacksaws.
Yeah, I know.
Cut them and punch them.
Could somebody describe what's going on here?
Well, we're looking for pieces to put in the right spots throughout the kiln. In the middle, we're in the middle section of the kiln. So we got several people loading pieces in and wadding them. The wadding is right here. So nothing sticks together, so we don't have sculpture. So we don't have one entire piece coming out of the kiln. So Steve's piece doesn't marry to mine.
Yeah, like you whack your hand on something.
So is there a science to actually the staff?
Okay, thank you. And now back to Bruce.
Because, you know, I had a soda kit and I wanted to.
Thanks, Meaghan. I'm here with Kathy Radcliffe, a student here at Montevallo. Now, Kathy, you told me earlier that this is your second time, or this will be your second time to have fired here in the kiln. Can you tell us a little bit about the artwork that you've prepared?
Well, the artwork that I prepared for these kilns are just some small vase type forms, and some of them I put texture on to catch different effects that the kiln will give.
Now, I know that the placement in the kiln has a lot to do with the final outcome of the piece. It's just like in real estate, they say location, location, location. So are you trying to place yours more in the front or more towards the back? Because I know that that has a big impact on how it looks when it comes out.
Well, a couple of my pieces are going to be towards the front in the firebox where they will get more ash effects. And then I have a few of them that are going to be more towards the back, towards the side door. And those will have more flame flash than ash effects.
Okay. And about how many pieces do you have going in the kiln this year?
I have probably around 10 pieces, not too many.
Okay. And when we were talking before, you said that you have actually fired pieces in other kilns across in even different states. So how does the experience here compare with the other kilns that you've gone to fire some pieces of your work at?
Well, all the experiences have been wonderful. With the other kilns, I wasn't quite as involved as I am here. Here, I've gotten to go through the entire process, and whereas there, it was more of just learning what to do.
Okay, well, Kathy, thank you so much. And now we want to give you a look at the history of the kiln. The pieces that come in, when they come out, you know, they've made their mark on Montevallo's history. So now we want to show you a little bit about the history of our own Anagama kiln.
Whenever I answer, you know, the question, why did I build it, you know, you have the sensation of wanting to say, you know, 10 different things at once, because there are a lot of different reasons, rationale for getting involved with this. There were obviously days where I asked myself the same question when it's really, really hot and stuff is sticking to you, and you know, these bricks are about, you know, 40 to 50 pounds a piece, and which isn't terrible except when you lift, you know, say 800 of them or something. And you know, so the availability of the materials. Area industry was unbelievable to us. The site was given to us by the university, who had no plans for it and who supported the project. The richer reason, I think, is that we are located not in a city, not next to an enormous metropolis. There is maybe no reason other than the artists that live and work here for other artists to come here. And so for me, it became kind of a build it and they will come aspiration. Obviously, the Field of Dreams, also my colleague Peter Callis, who taught me a lot about wood firing, said that a long time ago. He built the first one in North America. And so if you have something rare like this, a rare tool, the aspiration is that artists will come and try to experience it and try to mold their work to suit what this kiln does, and that possibly a community will evolve where people are mutually influenced. Artists with hugely different aesthetics, goals for themselves, sculptors, potters, a kind of a cross-section of what's going on in the field, are coming here now and working with us, working with me and my students. They're professionals, they're students from other places, and so it's a real rich mix of ideas, which would not be happening if it wasn't for a central place to gather, a reason to gather. The kiln is a catalyst then for what we're thinking about, what we're trying to do.
Hi, I'm here with Serena Stanford. Serena, could you tell me a little bit about your piece?
This is a small bowl that I've done, something I've been working on. I haven't worked on clay in 2 years, so sort of building up my throwing skills a little bit. So I just worked with the surface of the clay and scratched it up a little bit, put some stains on it, and it's going to go in the firebox here. Well, hopefully it'll get some of that nice ash on it, and who knows what I'll get. So I'm excited to see what kind of effects I'll get from it. So it's just a small little experiment, I guess. Okay.
I wanted to tell you those things. I'm going to fire those things, whatever you want, that didn't get into the thing. Okay. We can put some in the exit flue. Okay. It'll be fine.
Thank you, Serena. And now back to Timeca.
Well, thank you, Meaghan. Now, make sure you tune in to the next shows next Tuesday and the next 2 Saturdays, and email any questions to kilncast@montevallo.edu. Now, let's visit one of the artists at his studios.
My name's Tony Wright. We're here in my studio in Mobile, Alabama at the University of South Alabama, and I'm preparing to go to the Anagama firing as it's April now, so we're looking forward for May. These sorts of tight, fussy vessel forms, a little more whimsical teapots are the things that I'm best known for. A distinct possibility is that I might be in the kiln. And you go, what does that mean? Well, let me show you over here. This is a piece I've been working on. It's my self-portrait, if you can imagine. My hair pulled back with sideburns. So I'm going to try to get this guy done and see what the kiln does to my own image personally. So hopefully that's going to happen. I have my favorite spots. And I think we all have. Those of us that have been participating for several firings, we kind of know where our own personal sweet spots are. For me, I like loading sort of in the middle of the kiln, up higher, right across from where the door is. That's where most of these bigger pieces have been. And for me, being more of a control freak, I like the more what I call flashy blushy, rather than, really crusty, drippy. And I've done really well there, especially with the big head here. He was in my own personal sweet spot. And you can actually see evidence of what happened. This is essentially the direction that the flame and the ash was running by it. So we collected a lot of ash here, and the nice thing here is we get also the blushes of the flame wrapping around the piece. Also, it's pretty interesting here. You can see a silhouette of what was probably a form that was sitting in front of this. So the fly ash and the flame are whipping around those forms, collecting more thickly there and getting deflected there.
Thank you. Please be sure to email any questions or comments to kilncast@montevallo.edu. Now we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
I'm here at the University of Montevallo to find out exactly why so many people have called this their college home. And I don't think you've ever seen anything quite like this.
Close-knit campus.
Atmosphere here.
I wanted to play soccer.
I really enjoy all the teachers. I've got to meet them.
Best elementary education program.
I, as well as thousands of others, have made this our home. Will you?
Welcome back. We're here live at the Kilncast at the University of Montevallo, where they're now preparing as we speak to load the Anagama kiln.
And we want to remind you that at any time during the webcast, you can email us any questions or comments that you have about what they're doing here at kilncast@montevallo.edu. Now we want to show you a quick look on the inside of the kiln.
I can't get enough of them, I'm telling you. Good guys.
I think Tom Hanks has a certain brilliant.
Tom Hanks.
Started out just as pretty short thing.
Oh, he's a good actor. I mean, he's not hunky, but he's a good actor.
So I need some more stuff. Right here, behind you.
What?
Wait!
Hi, Mom.
We're getting together now with Scott.
What's going on in here?
Yeah.
Someone should tell them all the people are going to be removed before we light the fire. Except for some people.
Except for you.
Except for who?
Which no one.
Firing all your nuts. You look at
What? I didn't say anything about you. I just said a true statement. I said a true statement. We're firing all of your drugs. Those two sentences were not related.
And some kids in Virginia are going,
oh! It's Sunday. It's Sunday. They're not there.
So what we're going to do this time is
I don't know what to expect from the ceramics kids.
No, are they filming now?
oh, Alex, edit that out. Oh, wait, they are filming now. Okay.
Awesome.
It's going to be huge.
They're probably going to edit that out.
Just add some Japanese music.
No, I think that they're just.
Or they'll dub it, and you'll hear a guy's voice, and you're just like, oh, yeah,
We're gonna fire all your.
What do you say?
What are they talking about?
Beep, 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 beep,
Babies grow up to be potters.
Flat.
Now that you've seen a look at the inside of the kiln, we want to give you a look at some of the pieces of pottery that, as we speak, are being loaded into the kiln. We paid a visit to several of the artist studios around the state, and now we want to show you a look at what they've done to prepare for this week's events.
What I'm doing right now is packing a mold that I made. This is a plaster mold, and it's of an imagined huge pour spout for an even huger crucible. And this is all clay that I'm using is very important to the aesthetic of the wood fire. So I'm using a formula that's likely to produce an effect that I want, that I'm after for the kiln. And getting to know this process is getting to know where things are likely to do well, depending on the aesthetic. And one of the challenging things for me is that we've invited so many artists here that will be with us for the firing. I'm real aware of joining a tradition that's enormous and varied culturally, aesthetically, etc. And so it's just me getting up to speed with what this tool will do. There are different philosophies about temperature range. I mean, it is a high fire range. So, you know, if you're a ceramic artist and the word cone means something to you, it's, you know, cone 9, 10, sometimes 11, which is about in between 23 and 2400 degrees Fahrenheit, considered high fire. The particles in the clay vitrify at that point. You're literally making igneous rock. You're making the little particles fuse and melt together. But the fuel that's introduced to get it that hot also has an aesthetic quality. It materializes on the surface of the pots as mineral deposits, which at that temperature fuse together, sometimes melt down the sides. The flames register on this clay over the course of 100 straight hours. And so the path of the flame becomes important, oftentimes marking the surfaces specifically. That's why when we load, we're making determinations about where pieces are relative to each other. You know, it's a very, another reason why I like it so much is it extends the creative decision making up through loading and actually firing the kiln. And one of the things I like about this firing option is that it's always honest. It can't be dishonest, can't be contrived, you know, because your form is there and it's in the way of the path of the flame. So inevitably, as the flame goes across it, it's going to leave an honest record of where it was and what it encountered. And so all of that I realize as I make this piece.
Last week, so you know, hopefully they'll start the interior real soon. Yeah, I got the bed.
It's pretty nice considering what we've had in the past. And high freaking hell.
I think interior is 24
That's solid, it's not going to roll off.
The thing is you have whatever. That's what I'm
Alright.
putting them in all in at the end. And we do a lot of local fire. That's how we do it.
The whole fire is by himself.
You know, it looks like on those 1950s shows when somebody's at the door and they look surprised. Oh, hi!
Where's your cardigan?
Come on in.
Rogers. And take off your shoes and be like, would you like to be my neighbor?
Yeah. That's where I saw that. It was Mr. Rogers.
It bothered me that he never
Let
put
me
his
see
shoes
that
back
mug.
on when he left. He always walked out.
We'll be right back here live at the Anagama Kiln. Welcome back. Now, I want to remind you to email any questions or concerns or comments that you have about the Kilncast today to kilncast@montevallo.edu. Now, we'll see a quick view of our beautiful campus here on the University of Montevallo.
Founded in 1896, the University of Montevallo's mission is to provide students an affordable, small college, public, higher education with a strong emphasis on undergraduate liberal studies. Located in the town of Montevallo, just south of Birmingham, Alabama, the university is home to 3,100 students and is spread out across a 160-acre main campus noted for its unparalleled beauty. Montevallo's white columned buildings, famous red brick streets, beautiful lawns, colorful flower beds, and stately trees surround students with academic tradition. The core of the campus has even been designated as a National Historic District. So what is Montevallo? Montevallo is brick streets, creativity, college night, the Falcons, opportunity, community, tradition. Montevallo is home.
Earlier, we talked to Dr. Don Wood. Now we'll learn a little bit more about the history of Anagama.
This is a storage jar from the Echizen kilns in west central Japan. Dates to about the year 1500 or so. And what's really important and wonderful about this piece is the colors on the glazes, the blues and the grayish whites that you see. This is all natural. It's the result of the wood ash settling on the piece during the firing. Usually you'll get green, greenish browns and things like that, and to come up with the blue and the white is just really almost miraculous. This would have been a very, very special piece when they unloaded the kiln to see that these colors came out this way. The Anagama, the technology for the Anagama was introduced to Japan sometime in the 5th or 6th century from China and Korea. There was a huge influx of cultural influence from the mainland to Japan at that time, and many of these advanced technologies were picked up by the Japanese. And also there were a lot of Korean and Chinese potters working in Japan at that time as well. So it's a technology that is, 1,500–1,600 years old now in Japan. And it has evolved. Anagama, the name literally means cave kiln, and some of the more ancient ones, they literally dug caves into the sides of hillsides, and that was the kiln itself. Of course, now they tend to be just built on a flat surface with fire bricks that form the shape of the Anagama. But you'll still see them built into hillsides also, where that provides a natural draw for the flame and the ash to be brought up. This is also from the Echizen kilns, mid-19th century or so. And this unassuming little jar was one of the most popular Echizen pieces for every woman in Japan. In Japanese, it's known as an ohaguro tsubo, which means a tooth black jar. And women in ancient Japan, before they opened up to the West in the mid-19th century, a married woman would blacken her teeth after she was married. And in a little jar like this would be kept the tooth black. In an Anagama, it is purely, sort of accidental science. Every time you fire a kiln, you learn more about that particular kiln, where it's best to place the pieces, what kind of wood to use, what time of year it's best to fire also, because all those things will affect on what happens in the kiln and how the pieces turn out. This is a little seed storage jar from the Bizen kilns. Bizen is in the central part on the east coast of the main island of Honshu in Japan. It dates to about, the 16th or 17th century. And Bizen is very famous for its unglazed pieces. There's no natural wood ash on them or anything, and yet we see amazing color combinations and patterns in a piece like this. This is a technique that's known as Hirasuke Bizen, which means basically ghost images. And how it's achieved, they take the straw from rice after it's dried, and they soak it in seawater, so it's very, very salty, and then they wrap it around these pieces, and during the firing of the kiln, it burns away, and it leaves these patterns that we see. And they're still doing this today, but they don't take the care and the time that they did in the early times. For example, in this one, the patterning is all over the inside and even on the bottom. So this piece was completely wrapped in the soaked straw. Nowadays, they'll just do it on the outside to give it, you know, a wonderful color, but it's not as elaborate as this is. I'm not quite sure when the first Anagama kiln was built in the United States. My guess would be sometime in the 20th century. There are Anagama kilns around the United States. I mean, we have, what, 2 here in Alabama that I know of. I know there's a really successful one in Minnesota. There are some in California and up in New England as well. So it's a tradition that is, you know, getting new life by moving here to the United States. Not that it's dying out in Japan at all. It's not. I mean, it's tremendously popular in Japan and is used everywhere. These are also from the Bizen kilns. They date to the 17th century or so, and they're known as meimei-zara. And these were special little plates for the tea ceremony that they would have served a little snack on during the tea ceremony. They are very, very special. There's only one other set known, and that set is in the museum at the Bizen kiln site. They were after this effect. They knew how to achieve these different marks on this. So each one is, you know, they're basically the same, but each one's different in its own right also. I had one colleague at one point say, mud pies with handles. And I said, yes, but what mud pies and what handles? They're really very, very special set. You'll see the little indentation in each one. That's just to, so they're not perfect. Each one has its own character, its own personality.
Yet its name, it's called, here on campus, it's called the Fat Bastard. So how did it get that name?
Well, all Anagama kilns have a name, and most of them are nice names. But when Scott was building this one, I guess it just was finally getting on his nerves, so he said, it's that fat bastard out in the woods. So it got to be this, and it's kind of fat when you look at it. Its shape is kind of bulbous, but the kiln is shaped inside like the flame on a candle. From the wick, it bulges out and it comes to a point. That's exactly the shape of, that the flame takes and the path of the flame inside the kiln. So it's the Japanese style to have this flame-shaped thing. So most of them are named after, you know, fire-associated things, or maybe after the region that they're in. But this one just kind of got to be that fat bastard.
And so tell us a little bit about what's going on inside. I know that y'all are preparing pieces and, you know, trying to pick the place to put them. So, and I know earlier you were down at the beginning of the bastard. So tell us a little bit about what y'all are doing right now.
Okay, what we're doing right now is we're placing pieces of pottery like this tree mug by Montserrat on soft brick. This is a brick that the glaze won't stick to. So we'll just sit this up on the brick, or we might lay it down on its side on a brick. And that keeps it from sticking to the shelf when the glaze runs down. Okay. There are about 400 cubic feet of space inside this kiln, and we have to fill it with all shapes and sizes of pieces. So as the shelves are stacked in there, then we find just the right piece that goes in that spot. So Scott, Dr. Meyer, inside will say, give me something about like this. And so we run out and find something that'll fit in that spot. And that's what we're doing inside.
Okay. And about how many pieces can you fit into the kiln?
Okay, now that's a trick, because like I said, it's about 400 square feet, and you know, it's a foot by a foot. Okay, so it could be 800 pieces, as many as 800 pieces, and it depends on the sizes.
Okay. So it's kind of just like putting a puzzle together. You're just finding the pieces where they fit.
But the beauty of it is the puzzle doesn't have the same pieces every firing. You have to figure it out each time.
That's true. So each one is going to be different. Well, Teresa, thank you so much. Right now we're going to go down to Timeca.
We also visited Dr. Chris Greenman from Alabama State in one of his studios.
My name is Chris Greenman. I teach at Alabama State University here in Montgomery. I guess I'm trying to find my way looking at Menge pottery, folk pottery tradition of Japan, and you know, seeing how that's manifest in the United States in contemporary pottery. So I make functional forms. I'm interested in kind of pattern and decoration on my forms using texture. Most of my forms are functional, not all of them are, but a lot of them are. You know, it's not nostalgia, it's more about the whole process. You know, what the long process of a long firing can do for work. It's about, again, it's about process, it's loading the kiln and thinking about how each piece is going to be affected by the ash and the flame. Anagama, you know, you start thinking about it from the time you're making pots to, you know, when you're loading the kiln to when you're loading wood into the kiln. So it's a thoroughly involved process. You know, usually, I guess my strategy is I'm making pieces that will fit in various spots. So I make small pieces to larger pieces, so they'll always kind of find a right spot. Sometimes that kiln, you're getting great effects all the way throughout the kiln. I always like to put pieces in the firebox. You know, it's always a risk. We've been playing around with putting pieces into the charcoal or coals built up in the firebox and burying them in the coal. So, you know, I'll always take advantage of that. But pretty much throughout the kiln, I mean, you've got to learn the whole kiln. It's not about certain spots, but yeah, there are sweet spots.
Okay, we're here live at the Anagama Kiln, also called Fat Bastard, here on campus. Now, what exactly is going on here?
Right now I'm sawing off pieces of soft brick to put the ceramic artwork on so that they don't adhere to the kiln shelves.
Okay, and how long does that usually take?
I don't know. We have a lot of pieces that are left over from the last firing. I'm just sawing these off to give to Scott to go ahead and load up the new pieces on.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now I want to remind you to email any questions or concerns to kilncast@montevallo.edu. And also I want to inform you that tune in for the next two the next 2 Saturdays viewing and this Tuesday. Now we're going to go live into the kiln.
Not you, me.
So where are you getting from?
Not you, me.
Not you, me.
You get your haircut for this thing?
Hi, here we are in the Fat Bastard. This is the belly of the Fat Bastard. He always says, "Come step into my belly." Here we are. You can see people loading pieces and how the pieces are loaded at all different angles. When you load the kiln, you try to think of the firebox as the band, and all these are the audience facing the band. So when the ash and the flame come through, you want to see how it's going to affect the piece. So if the ash is falling here, perhaps on this piece it would run down. And then when you set that back upright, it looks like the ash is kind of defying gravity. So you'll see some of that on our unloading day. Here in the kiln, we have all kinds of pieces. This is by Chris Greenman, and this is a Chris Kelly piece. And there's Iman Siraj. This is another Chris Kelly piece. This is by Katie. We call her Barnacle Kate. She's one of the students in Dr. Meyer's class right now. And she has all these cute little things added to her pieces. Here's a mug set on its side. This is what we call a pinch pot up here, because it's a ball of clay that you just pinched into shape, and then it's got pieces cut out of it. The important thing in the Anagama firing is having texture on the pieces so that it has a place for the ash and the flame to get in and to move down and to have these wonderful effects, things to crawl on. And you see here's a little electronic piece. This is a mouse. Most of you might recognize the mouse without its cord. This is just behind the door of the side of the kiln, so these pieces will get less of an effect from the flame and ash. It'll be more gentle back here. In front of the door is the firebox, and you'll get more dramatic effects back there. It's a little bit more violent, and it's getting stacked last. Because of course we only have 2 doors, so you can only stack from the back forward and then from this point forward. There's Dr. Meyer.
I'm putting work in what Teresa said is the most violent area during the firing, and you know, it's an area where a lot of logs, right where I'm sitting, is going to be you know, a roaring fire, and the fuel is introduced at the height of the kiln to the tune of maybe 20 or more split pieces of wood at one time, and so that might take the coal bed up as high as my hand. And so you see where the pieces are, and sometimes logs will roll off and bump into a piece of work and that sort of thing. And so it's an area of tremendous opportunity, but it's also not without its risks. So what I'm doing here is trying to space them off the shelves with soft brick, brick that's a little bit more porous and easily cleaned off the pieces after the firing. And so not only am I putting that underneath each piece, but also on the sides, imagining them receiving a bump from a log or something, and hopefully not sticking to each other, because at that high temperature everything's fusing and molten. It's like syrup. And so you can imagine, you know, syrup, which is really glass, reaching out one to another, and next thing you know, you have pieces tipped into each other. Good example of that is in the Birmingham Museum of Art, where they have 2 pieces that in medieval Japan, you know, so 500 or 600 years ago, tipped into each other and are fused permanently that way. And every time I see that piece, I forgive myself a little bit for doing that occasionally with our stuff. But everyone's pieces are all, you know, fitting in here. And this will be a job that will take me through tomorrow. It's very, very important to get it right.
Teresa's been telling us a little bit about what's going on inside the kiln. Now let's go back to her studio and see some of her work.
I'm Teresa Olson, and I'm a senior in the clay program at Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama. Right now I'm doing, for my art part of my pottery, I'm doing a series of torso jugs, and I've done several of them and fired them in the Fat Bastard in the last year. And today I'm working on a variation on that theme. I have a friend named Kelly that's a professional potter, and these are from her website. This is my inspiration for this term. I wanted to get some more gestural shapes into my jugs, so I first sculpted them into small pieces so I could get a feel of what they would be like. And they're actually kind of cool because you can play them.
So why do you like firing in Anagama kilns?
Oh, it's like NASCAR for wood fire potters. It has danger, and it has fire. It has a river of flame, and it has sound, and you've got a lot of camaraderie around the kiln. But I just like burning things.
We want to thank Teresa for letting us come in and snoop around her studio and see what she's been up to. And we want to remind you to tune in again on Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time when they will be firing the kiln. That's when the action really begins, and it'll be hot, so tune in, and you will want to see just how much wood. There's just stacks and stacks of wood all around here, and it's probably all going to be used in the course of this of the firing, so make sure to tune in again. That's Tuesday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time for the firing of the Fat Bastard.
Now, we also want to remind the Bruce to email any questions or comments to kilncast@montevallo.edu. We thank you for joining us here, and we'll see you Tuesday.
We're going to see it find its home.
Find a little spot for it.
Right, see, it's about to get a home. Wait. Did Jack's cup? It's right.
Yeah, that's a perfect spot for it.
Look, see, it found its